In the previous episode, we met Yuya, a boy who was bullied throughout his life, but after saving a girl and discovering a mysterious door that led to another world, he finds a house that was once owned by the strongest sage. He defeats some monsters using legendary weapons left by the sage and levels up over 200 times, causing his body to completely transform. He starts attending the prestigious Osei Academy, where he manages to make some friends for the first time. As he explores the other world, he saves the princess named Lexia, and he adopts a Fenrir named Knight. He discovers a mysterious cave, where he happens to find the body of the sage, as well as a book that he left behind. As he reads the book, Yuya learns how to use magic, and the sage transfers his magical circuits into him. Yuya thinks about what else he can do with magic, remembering that magic is just the materialization of his imagination. So he thinks about using it to travel, focusing on where he wants to go, and he manages to open a portal, which takes him deep into the dark forest. He is excited that it works, but it seems he can only use it to go to places he has already been. But he thinks he can use it to get home to feed Knight, even when he goes on his school trip. They take the chance to do some more exploring, and they discover a cave, which happens to contain some goblins. But using his legendary sword, they are no match for him, and they find a whole bunch of rare items, storing them all away with his storage skill, and he thinks that his teamwork with Knight is improving. They leave the cave, and Yuya thinks they should call it for the day, but Knight gets sad, wanting to continue. Yuya says he needs to get back so that he can prepare for his school trip, but Knight suddenly runs off. Yuya goes after him, and it seems Knight detects something up ahead. So Yuya uses his invisibility skill to be careful, and he continues ahead. He comes across a girl that is injured, and is facing a number of goblins. Yuya wants to save her, but Knight pulls him back. The elite goblin attacks, smashing down a tree, but there seem to be some threads that get in the way, and the girl attacks, cutting off the goblin's arm. Yuya wonders about the threads, but the goblins suddenly jump at the girl. She blocks their attack with her threads, but the elite goblin lands a hit on her, and it seems to knock her out. As the goblin approaches her, Yuya emerges, and together with Knight, they take out the goblins. But there are suddenly countless other goblins that appear, so Yuya decides to use his divine whip, which binds all of the goblins, crushing them all in a single attack. And he thinks it's just too overpowered, because it can attack multiple targets at once, and it can never miss. After the fight, he wonders what he should do with the girl. He thinks about taking her back to his house, but it seems Knight thinks it's a bad idea. He doesn't want to just leave the girl, but she suddenly wakes up, surprised she is being carried, and she ends up falling to the ground. Yuya offers her his healing juice, and it's able to instantly heal all of her injuries. The girl is surprised how effective it was, and wonders who he is. So Yuya introduces himself, as well as Knight, but Knight is hostile towards her, and Yuya wonders why. We learn that the girl's name is Luna, and she says she was training in the forest, but she was surprised by the elite goblin and ended up getting into trouble. She wonders what happened to them, but Yuya tells her that he took them out. She asks what he is doing in the forest, and he ends up saying that he was also training. But the girl is surprised to hear this for some reason. Since Yuya was the one who carried her to safety, Luna apologizes to him for being so filthy and covered with sweat, but Yuya says it's okay. She wonders if there is a river nearby where she can rinse off, but Yuya brings out his bath. He keeps watch outside, and Luna can't believe he has such a rare item. Yuya mentions how he got it from a crystal deer, and Luna is impressed he could defeat such a monster. Yuya thinks it's normal for the dark forest, but Luna reveals she is actually there on a client's request, although Yuya doesn't hear this. Luna asks him to accompany her with her training. Since they are both training in the forest, she wants to train with him. Yuya feels bad about leaving her to train alone, so he ends up agreeing to join her. After that, we see them training together, as Yuya helps her practice, but she also teaches him as well. They both manage to get stronger, and we see Luna as she takes out a goblin with her threads. Yuya compliments her for beating an elite, but she says she still has a long way to go, saying she needs to get even stronger so she can complete her mission. Yuya tells her he has to go, trying to explain that he has a school trip, but it doesn't really make sense to her, so he just apologizes, but she thanks him for all his help. After the last day of training, Yuya relaxes with a bath, but Luna suddenly joins him, wanting to share it with him. Yuya gets embarrassed, but Luna grabs onto him, telling him how much the time with him has meant to her, and saying that she will treasure it. She thanks him once again, offering to wash his back, but her towel suddenly drops, and Yuya becomes embarrassed. His class heads off on their school trip, and we see Yuya playing cards with his friends. Kaide thinks he looks tired, and Yuya admits he didn't get much sleep the previous night. Yuya wins the game, and they can't believe he just won 5 times in a row. But Yuya thinks the game should just be luck. Yuya decides to take a nap, and he thinks that he kept winning because he put a lot of points into his luck stat, thinking that the incident with Luna could have also been because of his luck. Yuya is woken up as they arrive at their destination. The students get changed, and their teacher explains that they have to go camping for 2 days and must find a way to survive off the land, telling them that there are fish in the river and plants that they could eat. Kaide worries that the plants could be poisonous, but Sawada tells them the school doctor is on standby, although the students find her creepy because they always hear screams coming from her office. Akira thinks they could just go without food for a day, but Sawada says it's all a part of their lesson, mentioning that it's a competition between the classes. Yuya wonders if there is a reward for the winners, but Sawada reveals it affects her bonus, so she tells them to do their best, but the students are not impressed. The students are left in the forest, and Yuya wonders what they should do first. Akira thinks it will be easy to survive, but the other 3 just ignore him, thinking he is a fool. Rin suggests that Yuya and Kaide try fishing, while she and Akira look for some edible plants. We see that all the students are by the river, and Kaide thinks they were too slow. They see Rio by the water, and he warns them that all the good spots are already gone. Kaide wonders if they should try something else, but Yuya uses his detection skill and manages to find another spot. There are lots of fish in the area, but Kaide thinks the water is too shallow, so their fishing pole won't be effective. But Yuya has another plan, and he gets into the water. He thinks that compared to the monsters in the dark forest, the fish are not as fast. He thinks about what he learned from Luna about how to predict a monster's behavior, and he manages to catch a fish with his hand. Kaide is impressed seeing this, and Yuya continues to catch all the fish. The other students think he is crazy, and Kaide thinks he has caught too many. Yuya admits he got carried away, and he thinks about thanking Luna for her advice. Meanwhile, in the dark part of a town, we see a shop filled with puppets. Luna uses her thread, cutting off all their heads, and she notes that her power has improved. She thinks about her time with Yuya, but we learn she is actually an assassin, and has been killing ever since she was a child. But she finds Yuya different, wishing she could have met him sooner, so that her life might have turned out differently, but she knows she needs to forget about him, because she is the one known as the headhunter, and she prepares for her next target. Yuya and Kaide meet back up with Rin, showing her their haul, and she is surprised to hear Yuya caught all the fish with just his hands. Yuya wonders what happened to Akira, who is down on the ground, and he complains that Rin used him to test mushrooms to see if they were poisonous, and used him as a decoy to lure away bears. Yuya gets worried for him, checking his stats to see if he was poisoned, but is relieved to see he is okay. Rin and Akira show all the plants that they managed to gather, and Yuya appraises them all with his skill, getting rid of some poisonous mushrooms. They head over to the building to show their teacher what they managed to collect, and we see other students as they get their food checked to make sure there is nothing poisonous. Yuya runs into Kaori, who asks him how his team is going. They talk about how they are finding the experience, until Kaori is called by her team. Akira is surprised at how close he is with her, wishing he could be more like Yuya. The team shows their haul to Sawada, and she compliments them for being the first team to bring back such a large amount of safe-to-eat food. She gets excited thinking about her bonus, but mentions they are also going to be graded for their cooking. She asks who plans to cook, and everyone points at Yuya. Sawada encourages him to do his best, telling him her bonus relies on him, but Yuya thinks she shouldn't be so transparent about her motives. Yuya starts preparing the food. Thanks to his time living alone and cooking in the other world, he manages to prepare quite an impressive meal. The team digs in, and Yuya waits to see their reaction, but Sawada comes along after doing some drinking, and she is surprised to see the food they're eating. She tries some of the food as well, and Yuya gets nervous wondering how they like it, but they end up finding it amazing. Sawada says that even though their meals are prepared by first-rate chefs at the school, she finds his cooking even better, wondering how it's even possible. Yuya thinks how he only cooked for himself since he was alone, but is happy to see people enjoying his food. After the meal, Sawada asks if he would marry her, which surprises everyone. She reveals she can't cook or clean because she was always focused on her research and she has never been in a relationship before. And after eating his food, she thinks he is a catch, asking him to marry her and take care of her. Everyone tells her it's a bad idea, and Kaide even says Yuya is no good. But this makes him think he must be a failure as a person. But Sawada insists on marrying him, even saying she would wait for him. Yuya gets nervous, thinking it's not appropriate since she is his teacher, but tells her he thinks she is a good teacher. Sawada is happy hearing this, smothering him with her chest, while Kaide tries to pull him away, and Akira thinks he is the luckiest guy in the world. Later that night, Yuya teleports back to his house to check up on Knight. Using some food from his storage, he quickly fixes Knight some dinner. As he watches Knight eat, he thinks about how he enjoys making others happy with his food. He teleports back to the camp, where everyone is taking a shower together. Everyone stares at him, and Yuya wonders what's going on. Akira points out his body is ridiculous, and Yuya wonders what's wrong with it. But Akira can't believe how good-looking he is, as well as being insanely ripped. Meanwhile, in the girls' bathroom, Rin teases Kaide, saying all the boys must be into her, but they run into Kaori and mention how Sawada wanted to marry Yuya. Kaori is surprised hearing this, and the girls think Sawada has a certain advantage. Kaide seems to be inspired to make a move on Yuya as well. Kaori wonders if she is into Yuya, but she quickly denies it. Rin thinks she is too obvious, but Kaori wonders about Yuya's preference in girls. The next morning, some of the students find their belongings trashed, wondering if it might have been a thief. Akira has a worried look, while Yuya checks that all their belongings are still there. The group decides to look around for breakfast, but Akira gets scared, seeing scratch markings on a tree. Yuya remembers how Akira said he was used to lure away bears, and he realizes what's going on. As he looks around, the bear suddenly appears before the girls, and they quickly run away. The bear chases after them, and all the students panic. Sawada signals the group to take cover with her. The bear runs into the table, and Sawada tells them to get to safety. As they run, Sawada falls down, and the bear lunges at her, but Yuya gets in the way. He wrestles with the bear, throwing it to the ground and knocking it out. He checks up on Sawada, who tells him she would normally lecture him about fighting a bear, but since he saved her life, she decides to let him off the hook, even offering to marry him once again, which he politely declines. Yuya wonders what's going to happen to the bear, and Kaori ends up explaining they will take it in as a guard bear, and if it attacks people again, they will just eat him, and the bear seems to understand. So the issue is resolved, and the camping trip comes to an end. Back at his house, we see that Yuya is scheduled to meet the king in the other world, with Lexia on the way to meet him. He finds a group of demons in the forest, thinking it would be bad if Lexia's group ran into them, so he decides to take them out. Knight slashes at one of them, and Yuya throws his spear, but the demon catches it. So he swaps to a hammer, which completely squishes the demon, while clearing the area around him, causing him to be impressed by the sage's weapons once again. The demon drops an interesting-looking helmet, and Yuya tries it on, but we see a strange-looking rabbit that watches him, thinking he is the one, but Lexia's party approaches. Owen is worried seeing him, and Yuya realizes it's because of his helmet, so he quickly takes it off, and they are glad to see him once again. They ask if he is ready to meet the king, and they formally invite him to join them to the palace. But Knight suddenly jumps on Lexia, as a tree suddenly falls, and Yuya slashes it in half. Yuya notices the threads that Luna would use, and realizes Knight was protecting the princess. Owen wonders what is going on, and we see Luna cursing herself for failing, but as she tries to get away, she is attacked by Yuya and gets knocked out. Yuya is surprised that it's really Luna, and Lexia joins him, wondering who she is. He tells her Luna was the one who tried to attack her, and he realizes Knight knew all along. Yuya asks to heal her wounds and take her back to his house, so he can ask her what is going on, not wanting to believe she is a bad person. Lexia grants his request, as Owen comes rushing over, telling her not to run off on her own, but she tells him she is going to pay a visit to Yuya's house. Yuya wonders if she is sure, and Lexia says she is also curious about why she was attacked, and about the relationship he has with her. So Yuya decides to use his teleportation to get back faster, and Owen is left behind. Lexia is surprised by the teleportation, and they wait for Luna to wake up. Yuya explains how he met Luna in the forest, and how they even trained together, but Lexia is more interested in the teleportation spell he used to get back to the house. Yuya says he just thought about using magic for transportation, and just ended up creating it. Lexia can't believe him, and tells him that teleportation magic is regarded as something from a fairy tale, and there has never been anyone who was confirmed to be able to use it. She warns him that if anyone were to find out he can use it, it could even lead to a war, so she makes him promise not to use it in front of people without thinking first. She suddenly calls out Luna, asking her how long she intends to pretend to sleep. Luna gets up, realizing she is busted, and Lexia notes how Yuya also knew she was faking, but he was just being nice and playing along. Lexia asks her about her story, but Luna thinks there is no point and tells her to just kill her. But Yuya asks about her story as well, so Luna explains how she was an orphan that scavenged just to survive, but she was eventually taken in by a man who taught her how to read and write, as well as the ways of assassination, and she eventually joined the Dark Guild. Yuya is curious about the Dark Guild, and Lexia explains they are an organization responsible for orchestrating all kinds of crimes. Luna goes on to say how she has completed countless assassinations, and even became known as the Headhunter. Lexia is surprised hearing this, having heard of the name. Yuya wonders if Knight knew all along, and he realizes that that was the reason why he was aggressive toward her in the beginning. Luna reveals her assignment to assassinate Lexia, but now that she has failed, her death is guaranteed, because she will either get executed, or the Dark Guild will send assassins after her for her failure. Yuya gets worried for her, but Luna wonders why he cares, since they only spent a brief time together. But Yuya says that even though their time together was short, it meant a lot to him, so he sees her as a friend. Luna thinks it's already too late for her, but Lexia interrupts, telling her to work for her instead, and become her bodyguard. Luna wonders what she is saying, and Lexia explains that since only she and Yuya know about the assassination attempt, they can just keep it a secret, and if she is the princess's guard, it would be harder for the Dark Guild to get to her. Luna thinks she is insane, saying she is a criminal, thinking of all the people she has killed, and that her hands are stained with blood. But Lexia tells her she has pretty hands, wondering how they are so soft, and she says it was thanks to Yuya's bath. She continues to decline, but Lexia tells her off, saying that since she failed to kill her, she is the loser, and must now follow her orders, and Luna has no choice but to accept the job. Meanwhile, we see Owen as he and his soldiers are running away from goblins. His men can't keep going, so they are forced to retreat, and leave Lexia's protection up to Yuya. Luna can't believe how things turned out, thinking Lexia is a tyrant, but as her first order, she demands to hear more about Yuya's bath. So Luna explains that Yuya has a rare bath item that can create a bath anywhere, and helps with recovering from fatigue, but it also has positive effects on beauty. Lexia thinks it sounds incredible, demanding to use it as well. She decides to take a bath with Luna, inviting Yuya to join them as well, but he nervously declines, and she calls it a shame. The girls enjoy the bath together, finding it relaxing, but Lexia suddenly asks if Luna likes Yuya, and Luna says they are just friends. Lexia says she can tell she likes him, but Luna denies it, telling her she is imagining things. So Lexia tells her plan to marry him, and Luna objects to the idea. Lexia points out she shouldn't have a problem if they were just friends, and Luna isn't sure how she feels. But Lexia suddenly issues her a declaration of war, saying she is definitely in love with Yuya, so they will bow over him, and she will be the winner if she can marry Yuya. Luna is confused hearing this, but thinking about Yuya getting taken away, she accepts the battle, wanting Yuya for herself, and Lexia declares that from that moment, Luna will be both her guard and her rival. After their bath, Yuya thinks they should make some dinner. Lexia offers to cook, but she struggles trying to cut a single potato, even losing her knife, and almost causing an accident, so Yuya ends up cooking the meal instead. The girls find the food delicious, and Lexia compliments him, but Luna gets jealous seeing this, and asks Yuya to feed her, saying that she has trouble moving because her wounds aren't fully healed. Yuya thinks about how hard he hit her, so he agrees with the request. But as she eats it, she smirks at Lexia, who also gets jealous and demands to be fed as well. Yuya says she isn't injured, but Lexia uses her authority as princess to command him, and he has no choice but to comply. At night, the girls sleep together, and Yuya is exhausted, but thinks it was a good time. The next day, they meet back up with Owen and his men, and Yuya apologizes for leaving him behind. Owen wonders about their companions, and Yuya introduces Knight once again. Owen thanks him for saving Lexia the previous day, and he goes on to wonder about Luna's identity. Lexia bluntly explains how she was an assassin that tried to kill her, but will now be working as her guard. Everyone is shocked hearing this, and Luna can't believe how quickly she revealed her secret. Owen immediately has her surrounded, but Lexia tells him to stand down. Owen refuses, saying she can't be trusted, but Lexia mentions how they slept together, so if Luna wanted to kill her, she would already be dead. Owen eventually gives in, but says they will keep an eye on her. Yuya suddenly interrupts, saying he can no longer go with them to the palace, since they spent an extra day back at the house. He doesn't have the time to make the trip, thinking he needs to go back to school. So Owen tells him to visit whenever he gets the chance, telling him he can follow the road to a village, where he should be able to get directions to the capital. Lexia says goodbye to him, telling him to visit soon, but Luna suddenly runs back to Yuya, giving him a kiss and thanking him for everything he has done for her. Lexia is devastated, demanding to go back so she can also kiss him, but Owen just pretends not to hear her and continues on their way. Yuya thinks about the kiss, wondering if she likes him, but he ends up taking a bath to relax. He suddenly realizes there is a strange creature that snuck in, and he gets a notification saying he has just tamed it. The creature is confused by this, but finds it acceptable, and Yuya thinks about checking its stats, but he finds his appraisal skill has leveled up, allowing him to see the skills that it knows. He sees that it has a skill called Holy Ground, and asks to see what it can do. The creature creates a field of light around them, and it seems to give Yuya a buff. Yuya is impressed, and decides to give it a name. Looking at its appearance, he decides to call it Akatsuki. Knight reminds him about the time, and Yuya quickly rushes back to school. During their class, Sawada announces they are having a ball game competition, with the results affecting her bonus, so she tells them to do their best. The first event is soccer, and their class is divided up into 2 teams. Yuya plays as goalkeeper, since he doesn't really know the rules. When the game begins, Ryo is a beast, taking on the opposing team by himself and managing to score. Kaide is impressed, but Rin tells her they have a second secret weapon, telling her to jump. As she jumps up and down, all the guys are distracted, and Akira manages to steal the ball from Ryo. Akira has a morale boost, and Rin realizes her plan backfired. Akira gets past everyone, shooting his shot, but Yuya stops it in an instant, and everyone is shocked at his movement. He wonders what he should do with the ball, and Ryo tells him to just throw it as hard as he can. So Yuya gives it a go, and ends up throwing it straight into the other goal, wondering if he's scored a point. After school, Yuya gets approached by a modeling agency, inviting him to join the industry, but he quickly declines. The chief is shocked he isn't interested, but Yuya says he is already enjoying himself at the school. Miyu shows up trying to convince him as well, and his friends are shocked by how he knows the model. Yuya explains he just happened to work with her once, and they are shown the cover of an upcoming magazine where they are together. A poster for their sport competition suddenly lands near them, and Kaori comes chasing after it. But the chief suddenly gets an idea, thinking they could do an article on the school and photograph Yuya through the event, so she leaves to go and get approval from the school. In the other world, Yuya defeats a skeleton monster, but he thinks he hasn't been able to get any stronger. He decides to head even deeper into the forest, and he finds an area filled with hard black trees, which are extremely tough and unable to be even scratched by normal attacks. He suddenly wonders how Akatsuki got so big, but Akatsuki is actually behind him, and he gets attacked by a mithril boar. Yuya tries to heal himself, but the boar attacks him again. He thinks he is in trouble, and the boar charges at him, but the boar is suddenly sent flying, as a strange rabbit suddenly appears. It introduces himself as Usagi, and Yuya is surprised it can talk. The boar gets back up, but Yusagi destroys it in an instant, and Yuya is shocked at how he even destroyed the surrounding trees. He checks out its stats, and sees he is insanely strong, with all kinds of titles. Yuya thanks him for his help, and the rabbit asks him to show him his kick. Yuya demonstrates his kick, and Yusagi sees potential in him. Yusagi shows off his kick, blowing a hole through multiple trees, and he starts training Yuya to do the same. After a while, Yuya manages to destroy one of the trees, and he moves on to sparring with Yusagi. Yuya wonders why he is being trained, and Yusagi reveals it's because he wants him to be his successor. He explains that he is known as a divine, and it's his duty to pass on his techniques. He reveals that divine is a title given to those who have mastered a certain field, and he is the divine kicker. Their job is to protect the world from the vile, who are beings that are the manifestations of the negative aspects of the world. Yuya wonders if he has a choice in becoming his disciple, and Yusagi tells him he can refuse, but he mentions the fight against the vile is inevitable, so they need as many allies as possible. Yuya prefers not to become a divine, but he thinks about how he wants to be able to protect Night and Akatsuki. Yusagi decides to continue training him anyway, but asks to learn magic from him, since he is impressed by the barrier around his house, although Yuya thinks about how that was just the sage's work. But they come to a deal, where they will exchange knowledge. We see Yuya as he gets chased by a king mithril boar. Yusagi thinks it's a good chance for Yuya to have a rematch. Yuya struggles against it, but using his kicks, and together with his whip, he manages to defeat it. Yuya celebrates his victory, and finds it dropped a number of SS ranked items. Yusagi explains that there are triple S ranked and EX ranked monsters in the world, and the vile are even stronger at the legendary rank. Yuya suddenly gets a notification about evolving, and he suddenly starts to glow. His appearance doesn't change, but it seems he has gained a number of new skills. The next day, Yuya takes part in the table tennis competition, and the chief tells him to put on a good show for them. His opponent is actually the national champion known as the Sniper, and he delivers a devastating serve that even Yuya misses. But comparing it to the boar he faced, Yuya easily returns the next serve, even making a hole in the table, but he forfeits the match, not wanting to injure anyone, and the photographers complain he moved too fast for them. Kaide drags Yuya off to play volleyball, because one of their members got injured, and the chief follows after him. As the match begins, everyone is left shocked, as the ball pops, and the court is completely destroyed. The opposing team instantly gives up, and the chief finds they missed the shot again, because the photographers were distracted by something. Kaide comforts Yuya, saying a win is a win, and they suddenly hear a scream. They see Kaori, and Yuya wonders what's going on. We see her teammate getting carried away, and he warns Yuya to watch out for the serve. Yuya takes his place in the tennis match, and his opponents tell him he is also going to be needing medical attention. The match continues, and Kaori serves. It narrowly misses him, landing outside, and Yuya tries to encourage her. She serves again, but throws her racket this time, and Yuya realizes the other student was actually taken out by Kaori. Knowing this, Yuya takes over the game, taking every shot, and he carries the game. Kaori tries to be helpful, but she ends up throwing her racket again, and almost falls, but Yuya catches her, and the chief is finally able to get a shot. At the end of the day, Kaori walks home with Yuya, thanking him for his help. She wants to treat him to some food, but Yuya says he is just happy being with her, so there is no need to thank him, but Kaori ends up kissing him instead. Meanwhile, we see Yusagi as he fights against one of the vile. Yusagi defends himself with magic, and the girl finds this surprising, because he shouldn't be able to use magic. He thanks Yuya for teaching him, and the girl reassesses her priorities, deciding Yuya is a greater threat, so she leaves to find him and deal with him first. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.